Hello everyone, and welcome to another News Coolum video and another, I guess, charging site review. I'm actually going to turn on the air conditioner, whatever. I'm here at a sort of unique charging site. I just kind of wanted to call attention to it. Not so much a formal review, because a lot of times my reviews are focused more on DC travel chargers, and I don't want to do a whole lot of filming here. This is something of a sensitive area, and then also maybe just use this as a chance to give a little bit of a channel update in case any of you were wondering why I haven't been as active. So unfortunately, a member of the family, they've sort of relapsed in terms of cancer diagnosis. So we're back to that grind again, but I happen to be here at the Adventist Rideout Cancer Center in Marysville, and they have a nice little charging site here that's level 1 AC charging. So essentially, this is a type of charging that you would do at home just out of a wall socket. In fact, for the first 5 or so years that I was driving an electric vehicle, the Chevrolet Volt, I was just plugged into the same wall socket as I used for like my TV and other things, right? It wasn't a big deal. I just plugged in and ran the cable down off the balcony into the carport, and voila, I'm adding 30 to 40 miles of range a night. And that's really, I think, what this charging station is designed for. This is sort of an old school charging station designed to support people who are at work, maybe patients who come into the hospital or are here for a while. There's no option even to pay, right? It's just a simple, wall socket with a breaker type setup. Now, it's really kind of designed for electric vehicles. You could probably plug in even more. I'm not in one of the designated spots because a non-electric vehicle is actually parked there, which is great for them. But yeah, there are 4 20 amp 120 volt circuits, and what that allows you to do is basically bring your own EVSC and plug in and charge at roughly around 1 kilowatt, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe a little bit less. You really shouldn't be drawing more than about, it would be about 12 amps on a 15 amp circuit. So combined with another EV, you really don't want to be pulling more than about 16 amps total between the two plugs on any one of these 20 amp circuits. But like I said, there were 4 20 amp circuits. So a lot of love to spread around. I'm actually now charging at 2 kilowatt now that I bumped it up to 12 amp service. And yeah, there are actually 4 EVs charging here. A couple of plug-in hybrid Priuses, Tesla Model 3, and my Chevy Bolt EV. Now, I don't really need to charge. I'm probably going to disconnect, go run some errands, and then come back. But yeah, I just wanted to call it out because these are the types of chargers that I think that we need more of. And I just want to say, sort of in a historical sense, this is really an old school style charger. This is something that was probably, I'd have to check the plug share records and other things like that. This was something that was probably put in 6, 8, maybe 10 years ago, at a point in time where you'd be hard pressed to find an EV that had more than 100 miles of range, especially if you're talking about an affordable EV. A lot of these EVs are going to be plug-in hybrids, things like that. So the fact that an 8 to 10 hour stop here is only going to add 30 to 40 miles, well, that's really all you need, right? It's basically enough to make sure that you can finish your commute. This is still a somewhat rural agrarian area. If you had something like Nissan Leaf with a original 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf with a 60 to 80 mile usable range, and you were just pushing up against that, getting here well, this is something that might allow you to do your commute and still be able to make it home again and plug in at home. So these were super important chargers in that regard. It's really something, like I said, really old school style, but it's something that I think is still valid even today. I just think that we need to look at how we might want to improve it, right? Because instead of 420 volt 20 amp circuits, I really think something like this would need its own dedicated 200 amp service, and you'd have like 450 amp 240 volt. And you know, the big issue is, of course, we're now seeing electric vehicles that can pull more than a sustained 40 amps even over their EVSEs. I think some of them have limited that. So like the 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EUV that I reviewed recently, it came with an EVSE that could pull 30 or 32 amps, I believe it was, even though the onboard charger could pull more than that. And the reason I say this gets dangerous is I really think for mobile EVSEs, we need to put the cap at 40 amps, even if the car that it comes with can take more amperage than that. And the reason is what we're seeing with a lot of these NEMA 1450 services, things like that, they're really not wired for sustained 50 amp pull, definitely not more than that. And a lot of times RV parks, they're having their circuit breakers blown, they're having their circuits blown out because EV drivers are trying to pull more amperage through the circuit, through the plug than it's rated for. And so you really want to make sure that you have control over your EVSE, how much you're pulling from it. Something like this is pretty simple because 120 volt, you're never going to pull more than 12 amps. And it's still possible to blow this circuit if you have too many people plugging too many devices into those 120 volt circuits all at the same time. That happened at a former office of mine where literally a single 20 amp 120 volt socket, and we had at least 3, maybe 4 EV drivers all trying to plug into the free power, blew the circuit, cost the company lots of money. It's not where you want to be. So I think we need to make sure that we're managing those protections while still offering this as something as a service. And the other thing is too, the big complaint that I would have with a system like this is if you're going to put something like this in at your office parking or something like that, a workplace parking, I fully recommend that you do it, but provide lock boxes. As someone who's had an EVSE stolen before, it's no good. It's not a fun experience. You know, I had it stolen out of an open garage, and I was scrambling to find a replacement. Luckily, someone locally had an old 120 volt EVSE for like a Mini Cooper or whatever that they were willing to sell me for just like $100 or something like that. And I was able to get a replacement, but you don't want to be in that situation where you lose your EVSE. It sucks. And charging in public places like this, even when there's security, someone could easily just walk around and yoink, 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 pull all of these EVSEs and steal them. And you know, that's not what we want to see happen. I would rather see a lockable box and the plug inside of it, let people put their EVSE in the plug and run their cable out to their car. And then they can just lock it and they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about going into work. Is my EVSE going to be stolen when I get back? Is it still going to be there? But outside of that, that's really the only criticism I have. This is a free service. It's a great benefit. It means too, you know, I have my little doggo with me. If I need to roll up the windows and run the air conditioning, well, I can just leave the car running with the air conditioning, and that 120 volt is not going to offset it, but it's going to offset enough of it that, you know, I'm not going to come back to a completely drained battery when I'm running the air conditioning on full blast because it's a 90-degree day. Yeah, so overall, you know, I think it's a great site. I'd love to hear what you think. Have you encountered sites like this before? What do you think about the possibility of having charging stations like this littered around different public parking, different facilities, different places where people work or need to be for several hours at a time? maybe sort of upgrading with the time, going with 240 volt instead of 120 volt, and then maybe enforcing the EV only while charging parking spaces. Anyway, like I said, my life is a little bit busy right now. I'm going to post up videos as quickly as I can, but if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful or informative, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and helps me to do more of these videos, and thank you for watching.